More than 50 years have passed since man first went into outer space at an altitude of about 300 kilometers above the Earth, and since then dozens of astronauts have not only repeated this achievement, but even landed on the Moon. And at this time, here on Earth is the deepest point, to the bottom of which only 3 managed to descend. This is the smallest explored place on Earth, around which there are many mysteries.
Mariana Trench. In this video, I will not scare you with mysterious stories related to creepy creatures that supposedly live at the bottom of the hollow.
Discuss if there is a sorcerer hiding from people and so on. I think that even without all this, this is a very amazing place that can tell a lot of interesting things. The underwater trench was discovered by the British research ship Challenger during the first global oceanographic expedition. At the same time, the deepest point of the depression, the Challenger Deep, was discovered.
The Mariana Trench is not a vertical trench.
This is a crescent-shaped depression that stretches for 2,500 kilometers east of the Philippines and west of the island of Guam.
The bottom area is 400,000 square kilometers. And Belarus, Lithuania, Latvia and Estonia could well accommodate here.
And even there is a place for some Cyprus. In 1875, scientists tried to measure the depth of the abyss of the Challenger fortress using a rope with a load tied to it and meter markings.
The rope was only enough for 4,475 fathoms.
And this is approximately 8,367 meters.
Almost 100 years later, the Challenger 2 returned here with its echo sounder and set the current depth at 11 kilometers from the surface of the Pacific Ocean.
To understand the depth and imagine the dimensions,
let's take a famous example for comparison. Everest, at the highest point of our planet to sea level, would not have had 2,100 meters if it was at the bottom of the depression.
The Mariana Trench, as it is commonly called, is part of a global network of faults that cross the seabed and were formed as a result of ancient geological events.
The bottom of the Mariana Trench is hidden in eternal darkness. The sun's rays do not penetrate to such a depth. The temperature is only a few degrees above zero and close to the freezing point. The pressure in the Challenger Deep is 108.6 megapascals, about 72 times normal atmospheric pressure at sea level.
This is 5 times the pressure that is created when a bullet hits a bulletproof object, and is approximately equal to the pressure inside the polyethylene synthesis reactor.
Such pressure will simply crush a person.
Metal bends from hand.
That is why it is so difficult to get to the bottom here, and only 3 people were able to go down, including the famous director James Cameron. Due to such colossal pressure, the bottom of the Mariana Trench is covered with mucus and silt. There is no sand there.
These are mainly the remains of shells and ancient plankton.
As for living beings, among the fairly large variety, which is surprising at such a depth, of particular interest to science are giant 10-centimeter amoebas called xenon. And the authors of these organisms show amazing resistance to a number of elements and chemicals, such as mercury, uranium and lead.
Those elements that would kill other animals or people in just a few minutes. There are probably many more species at the bottom waiting to be discovered.
In addition, it is still unclear how such microorganisms, extremophiles, can survive in such extreme conditions. The answer to this question will lead to a breakthrough in biomedicine and biotechnology. In the end, this will help to understand how life originated on Earth. It is possible that you already know all this information, because there are plenty of videos on the topic. But it had to be said briefly.
We've refreshed your memory, and if you've read this far and are still interested, let's move on to the main part. What is at the bottom of the Mariana Trench? The real secrets of nature are hidden here. But first, a small request. Like this video right now and subscribe to the channel so that you don't forget to do it later. The Mariana Trench owes its enormous depth to the fault of 2 tectonic plates, the Pacific and the Philippine. There are a lot of lithospheric plates on Earth. They are divided into 3 categories: basic, medium, and small.
These 2 plates we're talking about are in the first category, with the large Pacific plate running under the Philippines, forming a deep trough. Such regions in which similar geological events occurred are called subduction zones.
The tectonic or ethereal plates are the outer layer of our planet, the crust on which we walk. This layer is created from the breaks of their fragments, like the shell of a broken egg. Such fragments of tectonic plates are in constant motion.
Let the speed is small, only a few centimeters per year. Being in such motion, sometimes they join and form a supercontinent, which remains intact for several 100 million years, and then breaks up again. Further, these fragments are mixed, removed from each other. But, in the end, after another 460 million years, they are destined to reconnect. The last of these supercontinents was Pangaea. It formed about 310 million years ago, and began to break up 180 million years ago. It is estimated that the next supercontinent will form in 200 or 250 million years. That is, today we are halfway in this eternal cycle. However, this is a topic for another question. If you are interested, let me know in the comments.
In the meantime, we had the Pacific and Philippine plates that formed the Mariana Trench.
Thickness. Each of these plates is nearly 100 kilometers long, and the fault is at least 700 kilometers deep from the lowest point of the Challenger Deep.
Imagine it's an iceberg.
There wasn't even a person upstairs. The number 11 is nothing compared to the number 700 hidden in the depths.
Scientists suggest that large volumes of water enter the Earth's mantle through this subduction zone. Rocks on fault lines act like sponges, absorbing water and transporting it deep into the planet.
As a result, the substance is at a depth of 20 to 100 kilometers below the seabed. Surprisingly, over the past million years, more than 79 million tons of water have entered the bowels of the Earth through this knot. This assessment was issued by geologists from the University of Washington.
Why such a thirst in the Mariana Trench? But the main question is, what happens to the water in the intestines?
Volcanoes are thought to complete the water cycle by returning water to the atmosphere as water vapor during eruptions.
This theory has been supported by previous measurements of the volume of water infiltrating the mantle.
Volcanoes emitted into the atmosphere approximately equal to my absorption volume.
However, new calculations show that the land absorbs more water than it returns.
And this is really strange, given that the level of the world's oceans over the past few hundred years has not only not decreased, but has risen by several centimeters. It is likely that conditions in the Mariana Trench are more extreme than anywhere else on the planet, with more water leaking into the intestines through a crack in the Challenger Deep. Does the amount of water depend on the structural features of the zone? For example, from the angle of bending of the plates. Scientists suggest that similar faults exist in Alaska and Latin America, but so far man has not been able to detect a deeper structure than the Mariana Trench.
Today, it is a mystery that scientists have yet to solve. But the water hiding in the bowels of the Earth is not the last mystery of the Mariana Trench.
This is the only place on the planet where carbon dioxide exists in liquid form.
It is ejected by several underwater volcanoes located outside or near Taiwan at a depth of 414 meters.
There is a volcano in the Mariana Trench in Kaku, which is a lake of pure sulfur in liquid form, which constantly boils at a temperature of 187 degrees Celsius.
6 kilometers below are geothermal springs, spewing water at a temperature of 450 degrees Celsius. But this water does not boil.
This process reduces the pressure exerted by 6.5 km of ocean water on the bottom. Today, the Mariana Trench has been studied by man less than the moon.
Probably someday scientists will be able to detect faults deeper than the Challenger abyss, or at least study its structure and features.
But while the ocean safely and carefully keeps its secrets.
If you like this video, write in the comments how you like the video.
Be sure to subscribe and subscribe.
More interesting videos on our channel.
Bye everyone.